Welcome back to Score Values. I'm your host, Adam Harris, as I am every single week. I'm joined right now by Dr. Tracey Wilen. She was an executive at Fortune 500 firms. She's an author of 11 books, and her specialty is talking about careers. And her newest book is Employed for Life. She's been a prominent thought leader on the impact of technology in society and the workforce. Tracey, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Adam. I appreciate it.
I'm very excited to talk to you about this because I think a lot of people can relate to this issue on this early Sunday morning. Maybe even having the Sunday blues going to their job the next day. Some people are unhappy with their current career status, and you have advice maybe as far as how people can advance and also the use of technology in the workforce and how can people get ahead.
Yes, in fact, I just wrote a blog called "Is It Time for a Career Selfie?" because we're all using technology and we're taking selfies, and maybe we should start looking at our own selves and our own careers and see what we can do about it in a digital world.
And what sort of things can people do?
I looked at the workforce, for people who are working, and they may, as you say, be blue on a Sunday, not wanting to get up on a Monday. Well, they may have not realized that work has really changed. They might be looking to the right and to the left of them, seeing new people getting promoted, younger people moving ahead, and saying, what's going on with my career? Why am I not moving? Well, the world has changed a little bit, and so I have some trends that people should think about in their own jobs to see, is that happening in my world, and is there something I can do differently in my career?
Let's go over some of these trends. And where can people find your blog, actually, Tracey? Let's talk about that first.
So there's a few places. This particular blog is actually on theexaminer.com. It's also on my website, traceywilen.com. I do blog for the Huffington Post and other periodicals. I'm on Facebook, of course, as Dr. Tracey Wilen, and on Twitter as @TraceyWilen. And LinkedIn, of course. So there's a lot of places you can find me, and I do post anything I've written on the subject.
So anyone out there that maybe misses a few things that we're about to, speed through here, because this is a lengthy and very interesting blog, you can find everything right there from Tracey. So let's talk a little bit about these trends and how they can help people. I know one of them you said contribution is a key. If you could tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I think a lot of people remember, including myself, that it was very important to be a loyal worker. That you show up on time, you do your tasks, and the company appreciates that. Well, that has shifted now. The companies are actually looking for loyalty, but they're looking for that entrepreneurial employee.
Mm-hmm.
That's the person who's really taking ownership of their job and thinking at their job really like a CEO. How do I add more value to the sales force or to processes or to the marketing team? And really taking ownership of the job in my career. And I think that is a big shift that maybe people haven't realized is happening in the workforce.
And are you talking about in the company itself or outside the company for employees?
Actually, inside the company.
Okay.
So the fact of just showing up for work, being on time, and doing tasks isn't enough anymore. Companies are really looking for that person who shows up at work, of course, every day, and then starts to think through how to enhance their jobs and add value to the firm.
You're listening to Score Values. I'm your host, Adam Harris. I'm speaking with Dr. Tracey Wilen. She's an executive was an executive at Fortune 500 firms, and she's an author. 11 books she's authored. Her newest one, Employed for Life, 21st Century Career Trends, and that was released earlier this year, giving us advice on our careers. Another trend that you had in your recent blog, A player is now a T person. What does that mean?
Right. So you might remember that an A player was either a diligent generalist, that was the first wave. Then we moved into the specialist. You're a specialist in HR or marketing or engineering. And now firms are saying, no, I want a person who can do both and be technology adept. And the T means transdisciplinarity. It's a person who has breadth, depth, and technical proficiency. And so, you not only understand the general scope of business, but you also can specialize, for example, and know the applications, the apps, as well as how to develop a strategy. So it's a much more complicated workforce, and it needs a much more complicated person.
And how does someone educate themselves on doing all of those things at once, and especially implementing technology, and I'm assuming social media as well?
Yes, and that's a good point. So today you're finding that many firms are realizing, oh, I can't have a person in one role only. I actually need to help that person develop skills and expertise. So lateral moves, externships. Some companies actually put their employees out at clients for a while to learn some skills and expertise. Cross-functional teams, as well as short but high visibility projects. Is there a new technology rollout that you can get a number of participants from different functional areas so that they can contribute but also learn the technology? In addition to things such as classes and training that either you can find inside the firm or initiate and take on your own.
And let me see if I'm understanding this correctly from my side as well. I feel like technology has really opened up many jobs, but not only jobs, like departments in companies. I mean, the social media aspect of it alone, and then every company now has their own website and their own blogging on their websites and their own Twitter feed. And not only does it take just someone to post a couple times a day, but it's more of just a full-time handling of all the social media aspects of a company. And is that where you're saying maybe even get ahead of possible jobs that are out there that are that aren't even invented yet, that aren't even out there yet, that will be in the future if you can get yourself ahead of the game right now?
Oh, Adam, you're singing my song perfectly. Yes. If you see, so social media or digital marketers, if you were on the curve there or know social media, that is an excellent place where you can learn this, bring it to a company, and add unique value to a marketing department. Another area is big data. If you understand how to collect data and analyze data, you can bring value to a firm. Even looking out in the future of future careers, wearable technology. It's a new platform. It's in healthcare. It's in military. It's in fashion. It's in a number of areas that if you get in early and learn about some of these technologies, you can, as you say, really reinvent new jobs that are being created.
You're listening to Score Values. I'm your host, Adam Harris. I'm joined by Dr. Tracey Wilen. She was a former executive at many at Fortune 500 companies and firms. She's an author, 11 books she has written. Her newest one, Employed for Life, the 21st Century Career. You can find her blog and her work at TraceyWilen.com, and also follow her on Twitter. Find her there at Tracey Wilen, giving us advice on what we can do to advance ourselves, get ahead of the curve in our own career, maybe make us a little happier, get rid of those Sunday blues that many people may be feeling. You also mentioned the blog Building Strong Personal Brands, and that looks good on the company. Are you just talking about how someone is perceived as far as how social media goes, or more in depth than that?
Well, it's a little more in depth than that. And in the past, employees used to make their managers look good so that their managers look good to their bosses. And companies are saying, you know what, that's really pretty narrow. Basically, if you think about, let's just say, for example, a hotel. When you walk into a hotel, the first touch point for you is probably maybe the bellboy, and then the concierge, and then the front desk person, and then maybe the restaurant. In fact, you're not even meeting a manager unless maybe you have a problem. All of their brands, right, how they smile at you, how they service you, gives you just a visibility around the firm, an impression of what you think of that hotel. So companies are saying, you know what, our employees are out there talking to vendors, talking to customers, talking to the media. They are our brand, and it's very important that they have a positive personal brand because that reflects on our corporate reputation. So personal brand is becoming very important for employees.
Is that just how someone kind of carries themselves in the world, and maybe even how they're dressed? Is it as stereotypical as that?
Oh, it can be a number of things. I'll give you an example out by me in Silicon Valley. There was a receptionist at a firm who was exceptional. It wasn't just how she looked. It was how she handled problems. It's how she greeted people. It's how she was so efficient in her job that when she went on maternity leave, the firm said, oh, my God, we can't replace her. So they set up video conferencing telepresence so that while she was home, she was still doing all of her job activities. So it's really more than just how you look and act. It's also how you interact and service your job. It all creates a brand about yourself. And let me just tell you another point. It's important because increasingly at firms you're working on teams. And teams want to work with and select people to work on teams who have strong brands. So if you are a team player or are diligent in your work but also creative and really compatible with your team partners, you're going to be, more likely to be selected for various team projects.
And that leads into another point on your blog. The firm is not your family; it's your team. How is that perceived? What do you mean by that?
Well, in the old days, I'll talk about my parents. They joined a firm, and it was for life. The firm became their family,
Hmm.
took care of them, trained them. They even met friends and spouses at their firms, and then through retirement. Today, the average adult holds a job for about 4 years, 4 months. A millennial, maybe 2 years, 4 months. And so you're really seeing much more velocity. People are moving around to different companies, to different departments, to different jobs. And so the firm is not your family anymore. It isn't a place where you park it. It's a place where you have a two-way interaction. What are you contributing to the firm? And they're paying you and delivering back to you opportunities for promotion, for skill development, to gain experience. And so I think people have to set in their mind is you're not going to park it in a firm anymore. They're not going to be your family. You're going to have great team people, and it's going to be a two-way contribution back and forth.
I'm sure there's people out there that are listening right now that are thinking, well, I've been at my firm or at my company for more than that amount of time, for 7, 8 years, maybe even more. Are they doing something wrong in this? Are they are they just too settled?
Well, it's hard to say because I don't know the company or the individual,
Right.
but I think the shift that they may be seeing or not seeing is that longevity does not mean promotion anymore. So the
Right.
tap on the shoulder, if you stayed in your job for 10 years, means that you get ahead, has been replaced by people who have actually created success and, quantifiable success, increasing sales, creating efficiencies in the firm, expanding marketplaces. So if you've been sitting in your job for 8 years without any movement, I would suggest that you sit down with your manager or HR, whatever the process is, to find out how you can increase your skills and responsibilities
Hmm.
at the firm. Are there special projects? Is there a lateral move? Is there a cross-functional team? Are there classes that they might suggest that you take? Let people know, raise your hand to say, you know what, I'm ready for more, I'd like a change, and I want it to happen here because I really like the firm and I can contribute a lot. There's no reason why people have to leave firms if they can find ways to contribute and enjoy themselves in the firm that they're in.
And a lateral move, it's not always a bad thing, right? It's just broadening your horizons. It's diversifying what you do.
In fact, in my most recent research for this book, Employed for Life, most CEOs, chief operating officers, and recruiters who recruit for them state that they are now looking for tours of duty on people's resume, which is a period of 4 to 7 years in a job or firm where you have accomplished something, and then you may have another tour of duty of 4 to 7 years where you have increased your responsibilities, but you may have shifted to another area in the firm. So yes, lateral moves are looked upon as a way that an individual is building their skill sets and enhancing themselves and preparing themselves for leadership roles. So rather waiting for the company to put you on rotation, you're actually self-initiating and saying, I need rotations because I want to be a more valuable employee and leader to the firm.
And maybe that gives them a little bit more confidence in your personal brand as well.
Absolutely. I think the more that you can educate yourself, the more skills that you can develop, and the more experience that you have, the more confidence you will have, and the more initiative that your firm will look at you and say, now that's a team player and that's a leader in the making, and I want to bank on that person.
Dr. Tracey Wilen is joining us on Score Values. She's an author. I'm just going to call her a career expert because that's what she feels like to me. TraceyWilen.com is where you can find her blog work. At Tracey Wilen is on Twitter, and at Facebook, Dr. Tracey Wilen. We're going over one of her most recent blogs, and it's a career selfie, and it's just basically a mindful way at how you can look at your own career, and if you're kind of at a standstill. Some good advice in here. Tracey, we're running out of time. There's a few more points that I'm sure people should go to your blog and read for more in depth on. I guess to leave us, what sort of broad, generic, but meaningful advice can you give to our listeners out there that are maybe stuck in their career and they need a career selfie?
My final point, which I think is actually, still very relevant, is that 75 to 85% of the jobs today, both inside a firm or outside a firm, is through networking. And today you have so many more opportunities to network with people, but digitally and also face-to-face. But I think what people should remember is that firms may fall, but people will last. And people do travel in packs. They travel in groups. So keep up your networks. Always have that positive brand so that your colleague who moves to another group or another company will remember you and bring you along. And that's how a lot of these opportunities happen today.
Tracey, thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it. I'm sure everyone out there appreciates it as well. It was great information. Again, go to TraceyWilen.com or follow Tracey at Tracey Wilen on Twitter or on Facebook, Dr. Tracey Wilen, and plenty of information for anyone that needs a kick in the rear to try and get their career going. Thank you, Tracey.